friendship with you, and we're now, Baruch Hashem, able to turn to our friends and ask them to give us some strengthening, some chizuk during this time. And knowing that you are also connected to a community in Krakow, Poland, we'd like to ask you for maybe first 15 minutes of Divrei Torah, and then maybe you could spend the next 15 minutes telling us a little bit about what's going on with the Jewish community in Krakow, what Pesach was like for them, and what's happening with our brothers and sisters in Krakow. And then we'll open it up to questions. If anyone has questions as the rabbi is speaking, just type them in the chat box, and we'll present all the questions at the end.
Fantastic.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you very much. Always a pleasure to even virtually be connected to Palm Beach and the synagogue, and I appreciate the invitation. I will begin with, as you mentioned, a discussion about an aspect of Pesach that always intrigued me. Let's make sure everyone's on mute. Okay. I have a student who is driving a car right now, and she's a doctor, and she's gonna, after I finish, she's gonna give us an inside scoop of what's it like to be a doctor in the corona wings in the ER in Krakow.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi.
And then at 6, and then in a half an hour, the director of the Jewish community of Krakow, Jewish Community Center of Krakow, is going to join us, and he was really at the front lines of helping the Jewish community out for Pesach. So that's kind of what I have prepared, and then for some questions, it would be my pleasure. Okay, are we all ready?
Yes, sounds great, Rabbi.
Okay, I'd like to give a shout out to my mom who just joined. So that's always nice when mom gets to hear a class from her son. So she's in West Hampton, and all my students that joined me as well. Thank you for coming. I am going to turn over my screen to a shear, a source sheet. And I'm going to ask a simple question. The question is, why do we celebrate the 7th day of Passover? That's what our holiday that's coming up. We said it's Passover, it's Pesach, we're celebrating Pesach. But the Torah goes out of its way to tell us that there's the first day of Pesach, and then there's the 7th day of Pesach. And those are special. We know, like, the first days of Yom Tov and the last days of Yom Tov. And we all grew up with the idea that there are these days, but we don't really understand why. It seems like the first day of Pesach, we get that. That's the Exodus. That's when all of it was taking place. But I don't understand why we have this other day, this 7th day. Why wasn't it the 4th day? Why wasn't it the 6th day? What is it about the 7th day of Passover? That is my topic. And I'd like to share a screen with a shiur that I prepared on Sefaria. And the shiur, does everyone see it?
Yes.
Okay. It's called Mitzrayim and Eretz Mitzrayim, Egypt and the land of Egypt. And this was something I heard from my grandfather, Rabbi Joseph Baumol, Zichrono Livracha. He was really my role model, one of the great rabbis of the 20th century. He started in Poland. He ended up in Crown Heights, and ultimately spent some time in Florida, and ultimately passed away in Israel. He told me the following idea, which I'll get to, but first I want to present the problem. The Torah says in source 1, in Exodus 12:16, you shall celebrate a sacred occasion, a Mikra Kodesh, on the first day, and a sacred occasion on the 7th day. So it's telling us that there's this special holy aspect to Passover on the first day, but it repeats itself on the 7th day. But the Torah never tells us why. Uh-oh. Are we good?
Yes.
The Torah never tells us why the 7th day is holy. Now, it says today is the first day, today is the day you're leaving Egypt, today is the day, it's the beginning of the spring. There's a whole bunch of good reasons why the first day of Passover is a sacred day. But why is the 7th day of Passover a sacred day? The Torah doesn't tell us. Now, I imagine if I asked you all, why is the 7th day special? What answer would you give me? Now, everyone's muted, but the rabbi is the shaliach of the community. He would say,
Kriyat Yamsuf, the
Of
splitting of the
course,
sea.
of course, Kriyat Yamsuf, the sea was split. And of course, I know that, the rabbi knows that, all of our listeners know that, except there's only one that doesn't mention it. You know who doesn't mention it? The Torah. The Torah does not mention that Kriyat Yamsuf took place on the seventh day. We have no proof that this happened on the seventh day. What do we have? We have a famous Rashi. If you look at Rashi on Exodus chapter 14, verse 5, it says the following. It was told to the king of Egypt. When was it told to the king of Egypt? So when the Jews left Egypt, they said, we're going for a 3-day trip into the desert. So he sent messengers or officers along with the Jews. And on the third day, the Jews didn't turn around. And when the officers realized that the Jews aren't turning around, Gewalt, they're running away. So what did they do? They ran back on the fourth day to tell Pharaoh, and Pharaoh got his people together, got the army together, and chased them on the fifth and the sixth day. And lo and behold, we're at the sea of the Reed Sea on the seventh day, and that's when the splitting of the sea took place. It's very nice, and it's something that we all and all the rabbis have accepted. This is a beautiful idea, but it's not explicitly mentioned in the Torah. The Torah could have simply said, on the first day you will leave Egypt, and on the seventh day you will have a special day because I will split the sea. Let's remember, when does the Torah mention that you will have 2 holy days, the first and the seventh? Not after the splitting of the sea, but while they were still in Egypt. So we don't know. The Torah doesn't tell us that on the seventh day will be holy because something amazing is going to be happening on that day as well. So the question, if you accept that it's the Chazal and the Midrash, of course, we can say it probably took place around the seventh day, but the Torah doesn't say it. The Torah says that the seventh day should be holy, and I believe there's a different reason. That's my suggestion in this class, is to try to explore what could possibly be the other idea about what's special about the seventh day. Okay? The answer is suggested. One of the great rabbis of the Rishonim, Rabbi Yosef Ibn Kaspi. He's an obscure rabbi, but he wrote several books on commentary in the Torah. And he says the following: Yadua ki hanefesh titorer lahatchalot uletachliot, lachen hayu kodesh harishon v'ha'acharon. He said, you should know that we believe our soul gets inspired and uplifted in beginnings and endings. And from the beginning, God said that this is going to be a holiday of 7 days. The beginning will be on day 1, and the ending will be on day 7. And therefore, the middle days, Chol HaMoed, that we're in right now, become somewhat holy. Came along Rabbi Kaspi and explained, understand, there is something valuable in the first and the seventh. Now, when we think about it, we can just add that what's the idea of the first and the seventh? Why is the holiday 7 days long? Now, we'll naturally say, 7 days is a cycle. 7 days is the natural order. God created the world 6 days, and 1 day he rested 7 days, and therefore a holiday should naturally have 7 days. If that's the idea, then Rabbi Kaspi explains the first day should be significant because it's the beginning, and the last day should also be significant because it represents a conclusion. So that's very nice. I build on Rabbi Kaspi, but what he doesn't say is what's the relationship between the first day and the seventh day? Is there any? Or no, it's 1 day is important, day 1, and day 7 is also important. Day 7, that's the conclusion. Comes along Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, Samson Raphael Hirsch, 19th century Germany, one of the great leaders of the Torah and Derech Eretz. And he comments on this idea, and he says something beautiful. he says, Machzor shel shiva yamin miyatzeg tkufa. He says, 7 days is a period. But the period is a process. Ba nishlam tahalich zichya b'madrega chadasha och michudeshet. There, he says, on the 7th day, the process of some kind of zichut, of meriting a new level, a renewed level. On the 7th day, the initial thoughts and premonitions, which were percolating on the first day, they finally came to fruition. Rabbi Hirsch is explaining the following. On the first day, the children of Israel, they enter into a relationship, they enter into a journey, they start a process. That process builds. It builds through these days of Chol HaMoed, and it reaches a conclusion that is spiritually a climax, such that by the 7th day, they understood what began on the first day, and they realized that the entire thing was a process. It entrenches in us the idea that this period, by the 7th day, this period has value, has meaning, has purpose for me to now apply it on the days subsequent. Comes along Rabbi Hirsch and he says, it's not enough to say that it's the first day and then comes the 7th day, but rather it's the first day leading up to the 7th day. Now, that's also an important level to understand, that basically the Pesach experience is really about a certain transition. That because it's a 7-day, it could have been a 1-day holiday. There's no transition taking place. There's no process taking place in Shavuot. Shavuot is a 1-day Har Sinai, Matan Torah. The receiving of the Torah took place on that 1 day, and that was it. Pesach is different because Pesach represents a beginning of a process and how the process continues. Now, of course, we might say the process continues till they get the Torah. The process will continue till they get to the land of Israel. But Rabbi Hirsch and Rabbi Kaspi say, no, the Torah is mandating that in order to digest this idea of Pesach, you need 7 days. In order to digest the symbolic matzah that we all kind of ate very, very intensely on the first Seder or the 2 Seders, we need the period, and we need to reach that 7th day. And in the 7th day, then we can look back and we can realize we've gone through a process. All this is an interpretation of the idea that there can be a process from the first day to the 7th day of Pesach. But what I didn't answer, and here was my grandfather explained to me around 35 years ago, is that it is what it is the process was for the children of Israel. What was it that changed from the first day to the 7th day? How do we see, can we see some kind of transition, some kind of transcending that took place in the people of Israel, even within 1 week? That's the question that my grandfather asked, and he suggests the following answer. In there are 2 chapters, two chapters that describe the Exodus. The first chapter is in chapter 12, right in the middle. This chapter 12 takes place right before the fast of the plague of the firstborn. So it's in the height of the drama, and God then gives a series of laws. And what's the laws? Today is Rosh Chodesh. You're going to take in 10 days the special Passover lamb, and you're going to slaughter the animal, and you're going to put it in your homes and take the blood and put it on your doorsteps. And then the Malach HaMavet, the angel, is going to come and you are going to be saved. We know the story. Then he continues and says, and this is going to be the holy story of Passover. And you're going to have responsibility about the matzah. And you should all remember that I destroyed the children, the firstborn children, and you were saved on this day. That's chapter 12. Chapter 13 continues this theme and then goes into the actual events of the drama of them leaving Egypt, 13 and 14. My grandfather noticed the following grammatical difference between how they viewed their experience in Egypt in chapter 12 and how they viewed it in chapter 13 and 14. Let me explain. In bold, I put the words land of Egypt. Every time it says they were leaving in chapter 12, it referred to them leaving the land of Egypt. In verse 1, in verse 12, in verse 13, in verse 17, in verse 29, in verse 41, and finally in verse 42 and 51, every single time it says, this is the time that you are going to leave the land of Egypt, Eretz Mitzrayim. This is when God destroys in Eretz Mitzrayim. And this is the land that I took you out of, took the Hebrews out of the land of Egypt. It sounds great, but there might be a problem with saying that they are leaving the land of Egypt as opposed to something else. What could be the problem by keep focusing on the land of Egypt, the land of Egypt, the land of Egypt? Everyone's on mute, but I will suggest that the problem is that this seems like it's a physical exodus more than a spiritual or a psychological division or separation. Now, the proof of this comes from chapter 13. Chapter 13, according to, is what is read, and chapter 14 is what takes place on the seventh day at Kriyas Yamsuf. Here, there's a distinction. The Torah no longer says, this is the day that you left the land of Egypt, but rather it says, this is the day that you left Egypt. In verse 7 days you shall eat matzahs, and on the seventh day we're talking about is a special holiday to God. On verse 8, you should tell your children, because this is what I did when I left Mitzrayim, Egypt. In verse 9, because God took you out from Egypt. In verse 14, because on this you should tell your son, on this day God took us out from Egypt. And verse 16 as well. What doesn't it say? It doesn't say the land of Egypt. What's the difference between leaving the land of Egypt and leaving Egypt? If we look at the final source in chapter 14, the children of Israel are at the Reed Sea, and they look up in verse 10, and the Israelites see that Pharaoh is coming close to them. V'hinei Mitzrayim nosea acharehem. Egypt is catching up to them. Now, my grandfather explained on a homiletical level, on a drasha level, that what the children of Israel, of course, they feared the physical Pharaoh, but you know what else they feared? They feared the idea that you can leave a place physically, but if you haven't gotten rid of it in your mind, if you haven't divorced yourself from the culture of Egypt, from the notion of the power of Egypt, from what Egypt represents, then you're not truly free. And maybe the freedom that you experienced on that first day was not complete, because it was a freedom from the land, from the pyramids, from the individuals. But what you need to do is go through a process to free yourself from the philosophy, from the culture, from the identity. And therefore, God says to Moshe, tell the children of Israel to go forward and forget about Mitzrayim. Ki asher item et Mitzrayim hayom lo tosifun lirot ad olam. Because at this point, on the seventh day, at the conclusion of this process, You will rid yourselves not only from the land of Egypt, because they weren't in the land of Egypt anymore, but you will rid yourself of Egypt itself. And God will help you go through this process. I think that this is a message that that comes very, very strong in the end of the story as the children of Israel sing their song to the to God. Vayar Yisrael et Mitzrayim meit al svat hayam. They see Egypt dead on the banks of the sea. What doesn't make sense about that verse? They don't see Egypt dead. It should say they saw the Egyptians dead. What does it mean that they saw Egypt dead at the banks of the sea? My grandfather explained it's at the moment where they truly saw the hand of God, where it started in day one, but it built up and it finally reaches the seventh day. And on that seventh day, a great miracle finally entrenched in their minds and their hearts the notion that we rid ourselves of Egypt. We are ready to become the people of God. And I think that this is, for us, we're going through our own processes and our own journeys and our own transitions. And we should see our Passover holiday is also going through a process. And we start trying to perfect our relationship with God on day one and having the Seder. But then the Torah says, don't stop after your Seders. Continue through the Chol HaMoed, continue through enjoying the holiday, and get up to the crescendo of the seventh day, where you can truly try to perfect your relationship with God and rid yourself of some of the external distractions that are preventing you from having that close connection. And truly, if this is the case, then we will merit God's hand on our lives, God's miracles, and God's giving us the health and the wonders that we certainly need during this very trying time. And may we all merit seeing ourselves in this level and reaching a point where the song that we're going to sing can truly be a song of gratitude, not just for what took place thousands of years ago to our forefathers, but what will take place to us when all of our crises, our major crisis, has come to a close and we can start to rebuild our lives once again.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Baumol, for that beautiful shiur. Amen. May we really merit to come through this with Shira, with great song at the very end of this. You said you prepared some extra speakers, visitors from Poland,
yes,
who are live in Poland now.
Alinechka, I need to unmute you. Is that correct? How do we do that, Myra?
I think I already unmuted myself.
Okay. I'd like to introduce everyone to a student of mine. She's, we're speaking a lot about the heroes, right? I don't want to embarrass her, but the heroes in our world today are the health workers. And Alina is in particular heroic in this regard. I remember we had a conversation and she had to decide between her own health and the health of those who are sick and those who are ill. And specifically, she was in a pediatric unit helping out young children in the last month. She survived through. And I'll let Alina talk a little bit about her experiences of what it's like, coronavirus in Poland, in Krakow. She was asked by the hospital to really take a leadership role. So I present you Alina Sobczak.
Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Alina. It's an honor to be with you here today. First of all, thank you, Rabbi, for the introduction. I don't really see myself as a hero, and I think it's not being modest. We all say it. I think everyone in those days who decides to work, to go out, the mailmen, the people working in the markets, everyone is tries to help others and make a living is a hero. And also people staying at home, and because it's I think a big problem for all of us. So we don't consider ourselves like the only heroes. We all are in this situation right now. So how is life in Krakow in the unit? Well, we don't have. Poland introduced a lot of solutions quite early, I must say, like the quarantine, closing the borders, closing the schools. So I think we're not really we don't really have like our health system is sufficient for now. When it comes to the number of patients, so I think we're safe. The problem is that we don't really have the equipment. We don't have the protection. We don't really have face masks. We don't have like one-use suits, like the plastic protections, even gloves. It's not because we're a poor country. I think we just weren't prepared. We prepared for the epidemics. Most of the production is in China, so now it's hard to order stuff, and it's all the countries that weren't prepared face this problem. It's not really a matter of financial reasons. And what surprised me a lot is that how people united, how citizens of Krakow united to help us. So people are making face masks on their own. Maybe they're not as good as like the professional medical face masks, but they're sufficient enough that we can give them to our patients that are coughing, then can be infections. So women that stay at home and that know how to sew are just like created like this big Facebook group, and they're like they have like a production line almost of material masks that we give to the patients, to their parents, and this way we have like a mechanical protection from spreading of the virus. Also with the plastic protection, at first we started to buy like the protectors from gardening stores. The ones, I don't know how you call that in English, but the ones that you use when you work in the garden, you can put like a plastic protection. And later on, some engineers from Krakow started their own production line also of the plastic masks. Like I don't know how you say, but I guess you know what I'm talking about. And the ones that have like 3D companies that are able to print out stuff, they started to print the plastic protectors for us, shields. Yes. Anyone that had like I don't know like hairdressers or like manicure businesses, and had gloves. Yes, they brought all the gloves to us, and also even like people uniting in between. I see there's a very like positive like energy and attitude towards the medical care. We have, there are many companies that are bringing food to the medical staff, that are, like collecting money. I also wanted to thank JCC for the help. Our Krakow JCC, Jonathan Ornstein, they got a coffee machine for our unit, which is a lot because we work 24 hours, and we don't have like a professional coffee machine. Maybe it's a small thing, but it seems, but for us it's big because it solves a lot of little problems that we had.
Maybe I'll use that to segue to Jonathan, but just say that one last thing about your story with Leon, and then I'll let you go.
Okay. So I have a son. My son, his name is Leon. He's 8 years old, and I'm a single mom, so I'm raising him alone, and I had to make a decision. because the schools are closed, so there's no way to take care of him now during the not only during my day shifts, but I also work 24 hours. Before, my parents helped me a lot with my son, but now my dad, he's both of my parents, they're in their 70s, and my dad has problems with his immunity. He has to take immunosuppression, and I knew for him, especially for him, the virus can be very dangerous. So we keep him isolated, both of my parents, and I had to make the decision. Am I still working? But this means putting Leon aside and leaving him with my parents, or I'm quitting the job and I'm with my son. So it was a hard decision. My parents, they offered to help me. Also Leon was prepared to be alone. So yeah, we didn't see for a month. Yeah, we were separated for a month. My parents took care of him when I was working. But now we had some changes in my workplace. Also, my colleagues offered to help, so now we're back together, and he's with me. But that was a hard decision for me to make.
Alina, that was
yeah.
truly a heroic decision and a complicated one. And I'm glad to see that you're back together, and it's really a pleasure to have you here. We also have here Jonathan Ornstein, the director of the Jewish community of Krakow, certainly one of the leaders of the community. And he's been there, he's in the heart of Kazimierz, and he's the one to take care of all the members of the Jewish community that are there, that are affiliated with the community in the JCC and otherwise. And he can share with us on the ground a report about what's taking place, what took place for the Seder, how he got the boxes together, how he delivered things. He's a good friend of mine, so it's an honor to introduce him here to the group.
If I can say just one more thing, I just wanted to thank officially Jonathan for his help. We didn't have enough thermometers in our unit, and he got a whole box of professional thermometers for our unit. Not as JCC, he did it anonymously, but I really wanted to help, to thank him right now.
Well, not anonymous anymore.
Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan.
Quasi anonymously. Thank you, Alina. I'm happy to see you doing well. So hi, everybody. As Avi said, my name is Jonathan. I'm the executive director of the JCC in Krakow. It's an honor to talk to you in Palm Beach. It's one of my favorite places. I have really many friends in Palm Beach. We had a visit from someone from your community came and did Bruce Gendelman came and did an art project with our community that we helped him arrange. Bruce and Lori, and they came with their family and about 65 of their friends from Palm Beach. So I got to know many people from your community and have stayed in touch and spoken there. So it's, I'm happy to see this connection continue with your community. So Chag Sameach to everybody. I hope you had a good Seder. It was very strange everywhere, for us included, of course. Here in Krakow, I got an update from Alina, who's really, knows what's going on, and from the absolute inside as a doctor in our community, taking care of things. So Poland, I guess, as I think I just heard the end, Poland did a pretty good job of reacting early to the corona. So things, I don't want to say under control, because that's not the case, but I don't think that there's this sort of sense of chaos here and that you have in other places, that things are, we're keeping it reasonably within the realms of what the medical establishment here and the government can handle. Things have been closed for a long time. So our JCC has been closed since, I think, fully closed since about March 10th or March 12th. So it's been a challenge. We have, we have a preschool in our building that we had to, that's closed. We have, BBYO and Hillel and all different Hebrew classes and Yiddish classes. And really, for us, the biggest challenge is taking care of our Holocaust survivors. So we have over 50 Holocaust survivors that are in our building. We have dedicated space in the building. They're in our building 6 days a week. So what to do with our Holocaust survivors, how to take care of them, was a real sort of the first thing that came to our minds when this whole situation started to develop. So what we now are doing with them is that we are on rotation calling all of them. So we make sure that all of them get a call every second day, at least every 2 days. All 50 of them are getting a call, make sure they're okay, chat with them, schmooze a little bit, see how they're doing. They need help sometimes picking up their medicine. So we have people that are going to the pharmacy, picking up their medicine, delivering it to them. If they need help with food, we're doing the grocery shopping for them, delivering them also cooked meals that we do for them. So that for us is a real challenge. In terms of the Seder, we also realize that, you know, our community people are just kind of finding out they're Jewish, and it's not automatic that they would just do a Seder at home like it might be in our world, automatic that you do your Seder. Maybe it's not with the whole family because of Corona, but it's not even a question. But for us here in Krakow, for many people, the JCC Seder was the only opportunity for them to do a Seder. So last year, I think we had about 170 people at our Seder at the JCC, which is really divided into 4 Seders. We do one Seder for young families, which Rabbi Avi does. We do one Seder for students. They do their own Seder. We had one Seder for Holocaust survivors that I led with the survivors. And then we had one Seder that Avi also led after he finished with the young families for the main community and for guests. So almost, 170, 180 people. So this year, obviously that didn't happen, as all of us are in some sort of quarantine and lockdown. So what we did was we prepared Seder plates for whoever wanted one. So we did about 75 Seder plates. So boiled the egg and haroset and everything for the Seder plate, packed that up along with meals for people who needed it, so everybody could do the Seder. We then did for people that were found that halachically acceptable, we did an online Seder by Zoom, and we had about 40, 45 different families on the Seder. So for us, that was pretty, good turnout. Of course, there were many other people who didn't join us online because it was Yom Tov and just did the Seder themselves, but we wanted to help them out by providing Seder plates and providing them with the meal if needed. So that's where we are in terms of the community. We've managed to move a lot of our programming online, language classes and Hillel and all these different things that we have going on in our building. But of course, like other institutions, you're not able to do everything virtually. A big part of our center was physically being in the building. This idea of these, especially young people who are just finding out they're Jewish, having a place to meet their friends and congregate in our building is a big part of it. And hopefully we'll get back to that soon. But I think for us, the most important thing is that we're able to keep a close eye on and take care of our Holocaust survivors.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Back to you, Rabbi Shiner.
Well, thank you very much. I want to ask if anyone is online and would like to ask questions online. Please ask your questions and I'll present. I have a question here coming in. Do you currently with COVID-19?
Can you repeat the question?
One of our members is asking a question. Is there anyone that is currently ill with COVID-19? Have there been any illnesses that have struck the Jewish community, or even worse than that, God forbid?
No. So as of now, no. Then again, because there isn't widespread testing here, so we don't know. I think that there is a reasonable chance that people have it and are asymptomatic or have very light symptoms. But as far as we know, nobody in the community has been positive for COVID-19 yet.
What are the numbers in Poland in general, for the general population? How hard is it hit in Poland?
The numbers, maybe Alina has a different, I just looked it up in the newspaper a few minutes ago. It's about 7,000 cases altogether, 245 deaths for the country. And Poland is about 38 million population.
Yeah, and 25% of cases is medical staff right now in Poland. So
Whoa.
that's the lack of protection that we have.
Wow. Is there any foreigners right now that are in Poland that have been trapped there, who have not been able to get back that you're aware of? Any Jewish people from America or from Israel that were not able to leave in time that maybe have remained there over Pesach?
I don't think so, not in Krakow. And I'm in good touch with Rabbi Shudrik in Warsaw, the chief rabbi, and I haven't heard anything about it. So I mean, it's possible that we don't know, but not that I've seen. I haven't been going to synagogue, so it could be that, you know, of course, you know, here actually the synagogue is open, which yeah. I live next to the synagogue, actually, like directly in the building next to the synagogue. So I sort of see what's going on. Synagogue is open. I've had some discussions with our rabbi about that, the Chabad rabbi about that. He has a slightly different take on the idea of the synagogue being open versus closed than I do. But so it's possible. But I don't think there's anybody here. I think people got home where they needed to get. There are some people who kind of live in both places. We have some Israelis who kind of live half here and half in Israel, and then they made that decision where they wanted to be, where it made sense for them to be.
I'll say that I had to leave. I had to make a decision because I was supposed to stay for another week in Poland, and I had a wedding of a very close student of mine, and I made the decision that I knew they were going to shut things down, so I left. And some people were stuck there, but there was a plane. You know, Israel's been sending out these planes. So there was a plane that a week or two into it was picking up like people who in Katowice were people who needed to get home. So I think that everyone kind of found their way to get home if they needed to. I saw a question on the chat. Someone asked, I think Jennifer maybe, about why is it that young people are finding out they're Jewish in Krakow? Hey, Jonathan, why are young people finding out they're Jewish in Krakow? It's a question that we kind of talk about a lot.
Yeah, so yeah, we have an interesting situation in Poland where most people associate Poland only with the past and the Jewish community only with the past. And we know that there were survivors of the Holocaust and they came to our communities, but we don't really think of many survivors, many Jews staying in Poland after the war. But some Jews stayed, and during communism, there was anti-Semitism here, and the Jews who remained after the Holocaust hid their identities. They kind of went into hiding, and they didn't tell their families that they were Jewish to protect them from against anti-Semitism during communism. And now, in the last 30 years since communism ended, these people are finding out from their parents, from their grandparents, that they are actually Jewish, who grew up without knowing it. So we have people walking in, you know, all the time with these unbelievable stories of just having found out they're Jewish in their teens or 20s or 30s. And we see that as really one of the main missions of our institution is to reach out to these people who were cut off from the Jewish world because of the Holocaust and then because of communism, and bringing them back into the family. So that we've had tremendous success with that, and really the majority of the young people who are involved in our community in Krakow grew up without knowing they were Jewish and found out somewhere along the way.
Wow. One last question. Thank you very much for that answer. I believe that the March of the Living was canceled this year. You were planning to receive a large delegation from around the world, and I guess this year you'll not be seeing them. Is that something that I'm sure you had a lot of plans in place? How do you think that's going to affect your community?
Yeah, the tourism aspect. I mean, the March of the Living is one part of it. That's a few thousand people, but we have about 150,000 visitors a year come to the JCC, come to our building. So, you know, the March of the Living is a very busy part, and we do a lot with the marchers. We do a lot with the South Florida contingent, actually, from Boca, from the South Palm Beach County. There's a big group that comes, Dade, Broward, from all in your area there, all of South Florida is very active in the march. So that's something that we won't have with them. That, you know, it's important for us as this community is being reborn, and we're trying to rebuild and build infrastructure here and teach these young people how to be Jewish. A big part of that is letting the world know about it. So these visitors that come to us then come and they learn that there is Jewish life in Poland. They are able to see Poland as not only a cemetery, as not only a place of the Holocaust, but also as a place of Jewish life, as a place of a Jewish presence, and even as a place of a Jewish future. So when groups like when March for the Living is canceled, or when all of these dozens of synagogues and federations and JCC groups and all these tours, people that are on groups especially that are coming to visit us, don't come, then it's a lack of an opportunity, we're missing to be able to show them that Jewish life goes on in Poland. And I think that it's important for us, not only for us as a community, but in a larger sense for the Jewish people. I think it's very important to be able to see that a place of such tragedy has turned into a place of Jewish life once again. It sort of reminds us of, the best aspects of the, the strength and the resilience of the Jewish people. So we are, for many, many reasons, like the rest of the world, hoping that this will end quickly or as soon as possible, and the world will start traveling again, because we really need people to come visit us. We need them to learn about what we're doing. We need them to believe once again that there is Jewish life in Krakow, and we need them to, to then support that Jewish life after visiting us and believing in our community.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate you all joining us, and we hope everyone there stays safe. And we're sure we're really going to reconnect after this pandemic is over, either in Poland or here in Palm Beach. We'll keep our relationship going strong. So thank you, Rabbi Baumol, and to everyone in Poland for everything you do, preserving our heritage there. We have one other visitor on the Zoom class. We had a wonderful art exhibit this season, and I would like to introduce one of our participants. Myra, could you please...
We have Agnieszka, who did the wonderful photographs, and I'm trying to unmute her, but I think she's muted herself. I thought she would want to say hello to everyone in Palm Beach. She's been posting wonderful photographs of Krakow as it's empty all over Facebook. And she really just has just such a way of looking at the Jewish community there. So,
is she still on?
I believe she is, but she's muted. I can't unmute her.
She's, I just sent her a text.
I did too.
Yes.
I hear her.
Do we hear you?
I'm talking, yes.
Yay, hi.
Oh, hi. Hello.
Yes. Could you put
yes,
on your video so we could see you?
So let me see. I was just let me. Okay, whatever. If you can ask me the question, I will be happy to answer, not to let you waiting. And
well,
I
tell
will
us what you've been doing.
My camera. Yes, Rabbi?
Yeah, tell us what you've been doing during this pandemic in Poland.
Okay, so of course I am completely trapped at home. I had many plans. I was to continue my exhibitions, my tour with the exhibitions. Actually, I was just to open my exhibition in Oxford at the university. Of course, it will not happen. That was cancelled due to circumstances we have. So I am in Krakow, and the latest activity, photographical activity, that was making pictures of Rabbi Eliezer Gurary, chief rabbi of Chabad Krakow, who was burning chametz just before the Pesach. Of course, the group was very limited. That was something like 5 people. And of course, everybody kept the social distance. So that was, more than proper. Unfortunately, the davening is not happening now in the synagogue, because there is a limit of only 5 people who can gather in church or in the synagogue. So of course, it doesn't create the opportunity to have a minyan. So as far as I know, most of people just daven at home. Yesterday, I was visiting Professor Jonathan Weber the Oxford University and Jagiellonian University working professor anthropologist who is living in Krakow with his wife Connie. Of course, they are quite elderly people, so they want to avoid the risk. They are not coming to the synagogue, so I decided just to pay the visit through the window. They are living at the ground floor, so I just knocked the window to say Good Yom Tov to them, and it was very happy. We can connect, we could see each other, we can talk, but of course I didn't let myself to come inside their home, not to create any risk. So in fact, everybody of us is at the beginning of our activities, and we are staying at home, and we are using, the Skype or the Zoom, or as I said, I made such an unconventional way of contacting, but that was pretty exceptional. So that's everything. And my next plan is to go to Divrei Chaim Yortzeit, Chaim Halberstam Yortzeit Sounds. It will take place next Sunday. Unfortunately, in Poland, there is a restriction that we are not allowed to drive on not necessary, and it is not connected with our job, essential job. So it might be a little bit risky to go there for me. I can get a ticket, and of course nobody will be there. I don't expect any Hasidim from States or from Israel for obvious reasons. But I told myself, okay, if nobody would come, maybe I should do that, even just to portray the emptiness there. Because, for example, last year there were something like 10,000 of Hasidim who were coming during 2 days to Tzanz. This is very popular destination, Hasidim. Nowadays, I think that this is a second after Lizhensk, and that's all. This is what is happening. We are to be suspended.
Well, thank you very much. And are you putting your pictures up online that you're taking?
I think that my Facebook is very active. So this is the first place where I upload something I have. So of course I will stay attuned with my friends, and I will share what I will have. I posted some pictures from Lizhensk this year because that was the same situation. I went there. There were only 2 or 3 Hasidim working in the hotel, in Hasidic hotel nearby. It was everything during the whole day. So, and of course, I remember how big crowd is coming every. This silence and this emptiness really resonated. It was pretty powerful, extremely sad, but this is the times we are getting through. So probably the same will be in Tzanz, and of course we'll stay attuned.
Well, thank you very much, and it was nice meeting you this year, and we look forward to seeing you back in Palm Beach, God willing, in the coming years.
Yes, I do hope. That was the time of my life. The only one regret I had is that we didn't have a chance to meet each other. Really, I mean, that was a special moment for you. That was engagement of your daughter. I remember that. So, of course, the competition was too strong. But I truly regret that I didn't have opportunity to meet you and also meet your wife. Bezrat Hashem, it will happen and happens.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for being such a good friend, and stay safe and healthy. And thank you for coming on this call with us.
Hello.
Yes. I said, stay well and safe and healthy, and thank you for coming on this call with us.
The same to you, and the same to all the members, shining, enlightening. All the best. Hope that we will meet in time, and in the meantime, please stay safe, and all the best again. Thank you.
Thank you all. We look forward to seeing everyone back at 2 o'clock. We're having another Zoom class. We're going to have Rabbi El Reese, the rabbi from China. Unfortunately, couldn't make it. Something came up, but His cousin passed away due to the coronavirus, so he can't get on the call, unfortunately. We wish him our deepest condolences. But Rabbi Yael Reese will tell us what's happening in the holy city of Tzfat at 2 o'clock. Look forward to seeing everyone back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Rabbi Baumol, and stay safe. We look forward to your next visit. It's really a pleasure to see you.
Bye-bye, Rabbi Baumol. Wonderful to
Take
see
care.
you.
Godspeed.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Good talk.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, Myra. Thank you.
Bye.